Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking at a live view of Kiruna, Sweden, where we are counting down now just under 16 minutes and counting until the launch of BROR on the last launch possible day of this window. If it's your first time here, welcome here at the launch pad. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad that you're joining us for this last-minute coverage of today's launch attempt. This team has been trying for weeks to get this rocket off, but been dealing with high winds as they continue. The launch window for this test closes today, so this is their last chance for a launch here, and we hope that we'll finally get to see this rocket fly off the ground. This test will be between the Swedish Space Corporation and a group of Aurora scientists from the Swedish Institute of Space Physics. They'll be launching a sounding rocket from the Estrange spaceport in Kiruna, Sweden, where our goal is to create colorful clouds for Aurora studies. They had their first attempt back on March 12th after some other delays, and they have continued to have launch attempts almost every day since, but the wind and other conditions just haven't been right, and we're hopefully going to see it fly here now just under 15 minutes from now. We don't know a whole ton about today's rocket or payload, and we're not expecting to see live tracking or telemetry. This is going to be one of those ones where we just see it launch and we wish it well, and then we'll wait for updates over on social media, but we wanted to still bring it to you as here at the launch pad. It's our goal to bring you full live coverage of every rocket launch, or as many of them as we can from around the world, and we wanted to be able to shine a light on some of these new launches that are happening. Suborbital launches just as important, letting researchers study new things in the lower atmospheres, not needing to actually get into orbit to do their studies, so we hope to have a good test here today. This rocket will use similar technologies found in fireworks, which is when the sounding rocket reaches an altitude over 100 kilometers. It will detonate and release its charge, and that will create an activation of the ionosphere and hopefully create a beautiful light phenomena that the scientists will be able to study using advanced optical imaging stations in the Kiruna area. The data from this experiment will be used by the IRF scientists to study conditions in near-Earth space, which is an important piece of the Aurora research puzzle that can enable better forecasting for sun activity and how the solar wind of charged particles affects the infrastructure here on Earth and our satellites in low Earth orbit. So we're excited to see this get off the pad here today. As you can see, we are now T-minus 13 minutes, 13 seconds and counting. Great to have many of you joining us here from all over the world. We're glad to have you. Paul's in Minnesota. We've got Astrospace in Boston. We've got Lee in New Haven. Great to see you. Princess is in Canada. JD's in Canada as well. Great to have you here. Rebecca is in Texas. We got Arrow in Finland. Great to have you all joining us here. If it's your first time here, take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth. And if you have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live to the best of our ability for today's flight. But hopefully we will get to see this vehicle actually get off the ground. Some of the details of today's rocket: the payload itself weighs 206 kilograms, and it will be going to an apogee of 244 kilometers. That's that peak apogee, but once it passes over that 100-kilometer mark, that's where it will be able to start its release of its particles, able to create that Aurora effect for the scientists to study. The partnership for this is between the SSC, the IRF, the SNSA, the EISCAT, the MORABA, and Clemson University. So a number of different universities and groups partnering together on today's mission, now just under 12 minutes from now. If you're just joining us, though, you're looking at a live view of the Estrange Space Center in Kiruna, Sweden, where we are counting down. This is a spaceport that we're going to get used to seeing as they are expanding to be able to handle launches other than just weather balloons, space balloons, and sounding rockets. They are actually going to be able to start launching suborbital and orbital rockets in the future. They are building out a launch complex there, so this is a place that we'll get used to seeing, and it'll be interesting to see more and more rockets launching out of a snowy area, but a great view here from on top of one of the complexes aimed towards the pad. On the left side of your screen, you're looking out towards the launch complex there with that kind of lightning light tower. That is where the rocket is stationed. And then on the right side of your screen is more of an infrared view. Just obviously we are working on the actual timing of the weather and the lighting for today's flight, now just under 11 minutes from expected launch. You're going to want to be looking right towards that lit tower. That's where we're looking for the actual rocket itself, right around in that area. We're on the left side of your screen, all the way down the center, that flashing tower at the end. That's where that pad is located. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome. You can send those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. Glad to have you all joining us here. Many regulars in the chat. Great to see you all here today. If you had joined us last night, quite a launch. History made by Relativity Space with the launch of Terran 1. Not the end we had hoped for, but still some major milestones completed, and super excited that we finally saw Terran 1 get off the ground. We hope they'll be back out at the pad. The first stage of their second Terran 1 vehicle is well into development and testing. So once they know what went wrong yesterday, do some preparations, we'll hopefully see them out back at the pad, possibly even sometime this year, or even sooner than the end of the year. So we'll just have to wait and see when we can next see Terran 1 out at the pad. We are now under 10 minutes and counting until launch of BROR from the Aurora spaceport in Sweden. The launch campaign ran from March 12th to March 24th. That'd be the end of this campaign. That is when this vehicle and these scientists had this area designated for their test. And if they were not able to launch today, they would have to kind of book another period of time to be able to have an opportunity for launch. We don't have any information on when that next test would be. If you do happen to be in the area, welcome. It's great having you. The SSC, the Swedish Space Corporation, did put a note out to the locals in the area. This should be something visible to the people even from the ground. You're looking for those Aurora Borealis, and if you do see them, you can always share those over on social media. Just make sure you tag us or drop them in our Discord. We might even be able to bring some of those up on air as well. Andy's saying there's been a lot of liftoff at this time this year. It has been absolutely a very busy year, and we hope to see it's going to just keep going. SpaceX targeting 105 launches, not including Starship. Obviously, Russia and China have quite large numbers, China more specifically, and lots of new launch vehicles coming online, plus all the sounding rockets. So we are going to be well into the 300s for numbers of rockets launched this year, which is super exciting to see as we enter this next era of space exploration. Coming down to T-minus 8 minutes and counting. Keeping an eye for any updates from the Swedish Space Corporation on how the count is progressing. We've had confirmation from them that the rocket tower has been moved aside, and the rocket is now standing freely. So basically kind of like a strong back retract. So the rocket is ready to fly here in just over 7.5 minutes from now. Right now, there is still no winds or clouds in sight, and everything is looking nominal for a launch attempt here in 7.5 minutes. If you haven't yet, though, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream. It really does help us out. Appreciate the support in doing that, letting people know for today's flight. The SSC is the Swedish Space Corporation. So they partner with the Aurora spaceport and other agencies and universities to be able to do these flights. So the SSC is Swedish Space Corporation, and the IRF is the Swedish Institute of Space Physics. Don't ask me how Swedish Institute of Space Physics turns into IRF, but apparently it does. So we'll see how that goes. We did want to quickly point out for you guys, if you haven't yet, take a moment, head on over to tlpnetwork.com/lunex1, or we'll drop the link in the chat. We are sending our own payload to the moon, and we'd love to invite you to send your name, photos, or videos on board. Names are free, photos are just $5, and videos are $15. And you too can join us on our payload to the lunar surface. We're excited to have welcomed so many people last night onto the payload. We're going to be collecting names for a while for our digital capsule, and excited to invite some of you on there. We're going to be putting out updates kind of quarterly until we know more details. We hope to be able to confirm with you guys the launch vehicle and lunar lander here in the near future, but we're just waiting for a go ahead from that. We are partnering with Astrobotic, so it will be a future Astrobotic lunar lander. They're going to be sending their first lunar lander, the Peregrine lander, on the maiden flight of Vulcan. And we do know they've got a couple other landers already well into development. We're excited to be able to share that with you. So stay tuned for kind of quarterly updates as we get closer, to that, and then we'll give more and more updates closer to launch. Mars is asking, what is the window for today's launch? That is a fantastic question. Today's window is from 1923 to 1938. So it is a small window, about 15 minutes that they have, and they are targeting 2 minutes into that window. So they do have a little bit of time they could hold if they need to, but it is a very small window on each of these days that they would actually be able to launch, and that is due to the lighting conditions and all of those needs. Now coming down to just under 4 minutes and counting. We do want to make a note here. We do have our clock synced with the clocks that they've sent out with media, but as always, video feeds can have a few seconds of delay. So when we get down into that final little bit of the count, keep an eye close on that horizon, on that that furthest spot on that blue view by that flashing tower, or on the right side of your screen. You're going to be looking just to the left of the tower for where this rocket is. This, again, if you're just joining us, welcome. You're looking at a live view of the launch site out at Kiruna, Sweden, at the Aurora Space Center, where we are counting down just over 3 minutes and counting until the launch of a sounding rocket, getting ready to do a suborbital flight, doing an Aurora Borealis study with the Swedish Institute of Space Physics. Little different than what we're used to. We won't have flight tracking or anything for this flight. No live telemetry, no mission control audio. But we are now 3 minutes and counting until launch. But we wanted to still bring this live coverage to you. You can keep sending in those questions in the chat by taking us at the launch pad and take a moment to share out the stream. We'll also hop over, as always, onto the TLP Discord. You're welcome to join us. That's where our TLP community hangs out before and after launches. And we're glad to see you over there. Zeno, I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you so much for that super chat. Keep it up. Really do appreciate that. T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. As we said, this is the final launch window for this campaign. If we were to see a delay, it'd be longer. Jody, thank you so much for your super chat as well. Really do appreciate it. Coming down to T-minus 2 minutes, 7 seconds and counting. As always, let's see a go, no-go in the chat from our community for today's flight. We're keeping an eye on updates. We are now under 2 minutes and counting until launch. T-minus 90 seconds. Again, slightly different coverage, no mission control audio or even ground audio for today's flight, but still hopefully going to be a great view here of the liftoff of today's vehicle. Today's rocket is an IMIO vehicle, heading up to an apogee of 244 kilometers. T-minus 60 seconds. Again, fair warning, the timer can be off just a little bit with these. So at this point, we're going to be keeping a close eye by that flashing tower for liftoff here today from the Aurora Space Center in Kiruna, Sweden. T-minus 45 seconds. T-minus 30. T-minus 20. Should be well into terminal count for flight. T-minus 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's ignition, and we have liftoff. BROR launching from Kiruna, Sweden, on its way for an Aurora study. You can see that track from the camera there. You can see the separations of the stages as this sounding rocket makes its way, heading to its apogee of 244 kilometers. Once it passes 100 kilometers, it'll begin releasing its payload for the Aurora study. And it looks like it's just getting out of sight there, but on its way for those researchers to be able to conduct their Aurora Borealis study. The final launch window for today's launch campaign, and they were able to have a launch here now 1 minute into flight, and that view is fading. This is going to be a quick one there. Looking back at the pad, you can see the last bit of the smoke and exhaust from liftoff, now just over a minute, 10 seconds into flight. But that's going to do it for us. We're going to try to bring you updates over on our Twitter, TLPN_official, as we go. But the nice and quick one here today is the team at the Aurora Space Center at Kiruna, Sweden, were finally able to get their vehicle. There's a very bright light. We're going to stay on this, actually, for a moment. Bring that back to the full screen here. That is very possible that is the separation of their payload. Again, we don't have a lot of information coming from mission control for this flight, but that was along that trajectory. Now 2 minutes, 10 seconds into flight. Some very interesting lights in the sky. Most likely the release of the payload. Creating that Aurora. Absolutely. There you can see. Look at that one. Incredible views of the release of their payload on board today's flight. Creating artificial Aurora Borealis. Triggering the Earth's ionosphere for them to study. They would begin the deployment of their payloads once it crossed over 100 kilometers to be able to see using similar techniques to fireworks. The height apogee of today's vehicle is 244 kilometers, so well into space as they activate the Earth's ionosphere. There is another one being released. activating the Earth. Through this, their hope is to create these colorful clouds to be able to study how the Earth is impacted by the impact of solar winds and the charged particles from the sun that create our Aurora Borealis in the atmosphere, for us to be able to better study how they'll impact us here on Earth, but also impact our satellites in low Earth orbit. Wait to see if we get another release here in a moment. Some amazing surprise views for today's mission here. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. Here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to bring you full live coverage of all the launches around the world globally, because we believe that space is better together. And I have to say, this one's taken the cake for a really unique one to see here, actually getting to see these Aurora being created. We've seen a number of these type of launches out of the United States from Wallops, but have never actually had a clear live view like this. But that is because there is not a cloud in sight today, that they are able to look straight above the spaceport and see the payloads being released, causing that artificial aurora to be created. You can see that line of the trail from where the rocket flew, but those bluish cloud tinges, those are the payloads that have been deployed, creating these artificial Aurora Borealis. Oh my goodness. Look at that aurora forming right there. That green, you can see the green starting to form from both sides. There is another deployment. Really hope some locals are taking some high resolution pictures, because this is incredible to watch, even from just a CCTV camera. Coming up to 6 minutes since launch, you can see another separation of their payload. There's another one there. Jessica, I'm glad we didn't cut away too. This is new for us. This is rare to get to see on one of these flights, so this is fantastic. We're glad you're all joining us here and sticking around. You can see that really clear green aurora now from the screen there. You can see more payloads being released in flight. Keep in mind, these payloads are being released at a minimum of 100 kilometers in altitude, all the way up to 244 kilometers. And that is what's triggering the Earth's atmosphere and creating these aurora effects. Similar to using an firework, but they're launching these into the Earth's ionosphere. And we do have a picture that has been sent from the Swedish Space Corporation that we'll work on getting on screen here in just a moment, with confirmation that they've had a good flight and they are well on their way into their study of the auroras. Bear with me as we bring that photo on air here for you guys. It's going to be cropped just a little bit, but gives a great view into what we are seeing over in Kiruna, Sweden here today. It's going to come up on the right side of your screen. This is from the Swedish Space Corporation. Just a couple minutes ago, a beautiful light show being confirmed, as we are seeing on the left side of your screen a live view. We do hope that we'll get to see some more beautiful views of the auroras from the Aurora Space Center here this evening. But clearly a very successful launch from the SSC and the IRF. If you haven't yet, take a moment, make sure you engage that subscribe button so you never miss another one of these exciting launches. We will continue to track these as we get notifications of them. We'll see if we see any more payload deployments occur. It does look like it's quieted down just a little bit here now, coming up to 9 minutes into flight. If you're just joining us again, on the right side of your screen, that is a photo from Kiruna, Sweden. On the left side, that is a live view of the skies above the Aurora Space Center, where they just successfully launched a sounding rocket conducting an Aurora Borealis study. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. We'll work on answering them to the best of our ability. As we continue to watch that live view over the spaceport. Lightning Jack ABBA in space. Now that would be a concert. But you can definitely see those really bright auroras have calmed down a bit, but we do still have some of that blue aurora appearing in the ionosphere. Marcin, hope I'm saying that right, did ask, have they specified the composition of the payload? We don't have a lot of information about what they are testing with here today. We'll work to see if we can get some more information on that, because it's a research thing. They don't necessarily always release what they are using for today's flight, but we'll see if we can get some more of that information for you. But it is a special type of activation, basically just charging the ionosphere as if it was getting hit by solar particles, and that's what causes these auroras to occur. Bring that big feed back up main screen here. It looks like we haven't had any more deployments now, 11 minutes into flight, but some incredible views here this evening over there, but this afternoon here, and we're glad that you guys were able to join us. Again, if it was your first time here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch, because here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And you can always follow along with orbital launches on our launch calendar, tlpnetwork.com/launches. But for these sounding rockets, it's hit and miss on whether we'll be able to bring live coverage, but when we can, we always will. We are glad to be able to cover the launch of BROR here today from the Aurora spaceport just 11 minutes, 40 seconds ago, and some incredible views of the Aurora Borealis from today's study. That's going to do it for us here today, though. If you haven't yet, take a moment, join us over on the TLP Discord. The link is in the chat and in the description. I'd love to invite you to join us there. Also, make sure you follow us over on Twitter, TLPN_official. That's where we live tweet space news and live launch alerts as well. And of course, make sure you follow tlpnetwork.com. That's where we post all of our space news, our launch calendar, and more. We do have our applications open. If you're interested in joining the TLP crew, just click that about, scroll to the bottom. There's an application there, and we hope to invite some of you to join the TLP crew in the near future. We are, of course, counting down to launch of the next launches from the United States and around the world. We do have Electron scheduled for tomorrow. We hope you'll join us for that. We've also got Starlink launching on the 24th. On the 25th, we've got a launch out of India for OneWeb, and we got a couple more Starlinks before the end of the month, and we hope you'll join us live for those. And then April, we got a busy month filled with many large rockets and many firsts, and some almost lasts, and we hope you'll join us for that. But that's going to do it for me here today from TLP HQ. My name's Zach. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.